What's up, Brodies? How's it hanging? We're just hanging 10, folks, and we're going to talk about the best movies of 1991. There are some that didn't make the list. That
There's a lot
some
that didn't
people,
make the list, Michael.
a lot, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, some people are going to be upset that some movies didn't make the list. Like, for
Me.
example, JD, but also any Ernest fans. I tried my hardest to get Ernest Saves Halloween or Ernest Scared Stupid. Sorry. I tried my hardest, but the best Ernest movie didn't make it.
And listen, I think we should just up front apologize to all the Kevin Costner all the Kevin Costner fans, because none of his movies made it. And there were two big ones.
Yeah, well, when I'm running the show, Kevin Costner's not going to make the list. We have Thelma and Louise, just a great buddy movie.
Yeah, it's a great movie, and it has like one of the most iconic endings ever. And I forget that Ridley Scott directed it.
It's a year of like directors kind of like doing movies that you would not expect them to, like, or that you always forget. Like, we'll talk about one later. Every Spielberg person forgets about Hook, which is not on this list, unfortunately.
It shouldn't be.
And how dare you? But like Ridley Scott, this is not feel like a Ridley Scott movie, but it's fantastic. You know what? Probably, if we're being honest, if we're just looking back the last, I don't know, 20 years, maybe one of his best.
I would say so, yeah. And you get Brad Pitt shirtless. What's not to hate about
What's
that?
his name?
Yeah.
What's his name, guys? JD.
Oh,
It's my name.
I was like, Brad Pitt?
And now I'm starting to wonder, like, I was born in 1992. Was I named after Brad Pitt's character?
I think you're going to have to ask your mom. You're going to have to ask
my
your mom.
Yeah.
That's a really good possibility.
Number 9 is Cape Fear. And as JD just talked about, it's got a director going kind of outside of his wheelhouse, but also not really. Because if you think about Martin Scorsese movies, this is like straight up a Scorsese movie. He's got all his tracking shots. He's got all his like cool zoom in, focus out shots. And he's got Robert De Niro playing an absolute insane person. You got Nick Nolte chewing scenery.
But there's just something different about it, and it's a movie. Again, I just forget that it, like, when you're just rattling off Scorsese movies, especially from the 90s, like, there's always a person who's like, what about Cape Fear? You're like, yeah.
Nick Nolte and Robert De Niro in this remake. And then you have Gregory Peck and Robert Mitchum in the original. So it's like, you just got two forces of acting greatness against each other in both versions. But I would say I prefer the 91 version just because of how the ending, Robert De Niro speaking in tongues as he's just like slowly drowning in a river.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Sold.
Okay, number 8. This isn't our first documentary we've listed in our 90s videos, but it is amazing and it deserves a top 10 spot. It's Hearts of Darkness. It's about the filming of Apocalypse Now, which all the film nerds know was like one of the most chaotic and longest and over budgeted movie productions of all time. And it makes sense because that's what Francis Ford Coppola does with his movies. He's like, you know what? I just want to just explode a bunch of a forest. Why not? And he does it.
Yep.
Number 7, we have My Own Private Idaho. I juiced the numbers. I put it at my number 1 so I could get it on the list just so I could talk about it.
Playing the game.
Wow. I did not know that that's what we could do, or I would have put Robin Hood at number 1 just to make you so mad.
It's Gus Van Sant. It's like his 3rd movie that he made right after Drugstore Cowboy. So he's riding that high. And instead of going for like a big budget movie, he's like, no, I'm going to do another indie. And this was his deal for most of the 90s until Good Will Hunting. He was like, I'm just going to do indie stuff. And so he cast Keanu Reeves and River Phoenix. And it is just the greatest, like, small indie movie that I watched for the longest time. Keanu, a lot of people like to trash him for acting the same, but this dude could actually act. Like, when he broke into the scene, he could act. Now, he was miscast a little bit a few times in the 90s.
Yeah.
Dracula. But
No,
this he's
perfect
not.
casting. You should.
But he's not miscast in this role at all, and neither is River Phoenix. And this was when people were like, "Oh, River Phoenix can still act," and he's like getting older, and he's going to get more and more parts. Unfortunately, we know his story. He had a drug overdose and died. And I wish he would have got nominated for an Oscar, but he didn't. Boys in the Hood. If you haven't seen this movie, as a dude, if you haven't seen this movie, I ask you right now to pause this movie and go watch Boys in the Hood, because it's about, it's that good. It's about like fatherhood. It's about like being a child growing up in a weird world that we live in and dealing with political things and sociological things. Cuba Gooding Jr. just like blown out of the water. Lawrence Fishburne in his first like fatherly role. And, you know, he starts the 90s. Boys in the Hood ends it with The Matrix. I mean,
what a
two dad roles.
What a dude. And but this is John Singleton's first movie. He was like, I think 20 something. Like he was young and it got nominated for Best Director. Amazing. Like that alone's just fantastic. Movie's great too. But nice little piece of trivia.
Barton Fink, our resident Coen Brothers nerd. Zach, take it away.
Okay. This movie is like the first Coen Brothers movie where it's like this is like their first masterpiece. I mean, like the Coen Brothers are like they're my favorite filmmakers, but they're like arguably one of the best like filmmakers ever. Everything about it is bonkers good. It's like similar to The Big Lebowski, where they have lots of like visual symbolism and stuff like that. And it doesn't really matter. It doesn't mean anything. Like it can if you want to look into it super far, but even they're like, oh no, like it doesn't really mean anything. Like we just thought it was funny. And I love that. I love it so much. And just the guts that they have to do that. But it's if you're a writer or if you're like a creative person and you've ever had writer's block, this is like the first half is exactly how you feel. The last half is where it either you love it or lots of people got turned off by it, apparently. It is just the Coen Brothers being as weird as possible, and I love it.
Let's move on. Shut up, Zach. Stop talking about Coen Brothers. We have Point Break, another Keanu hit. I mean, but you also got Gary Busey, and you've got Patrick Swayze and Catherine Bigelow's first big movie.
I mean, like, what do you say about Point Break that's not already been like parodied and said 100 million times? I mean, it's like, it's a great action movie. It's a movie like for me that it's like I can't think of what the third one would be right now, but you could do like this and Heat and like one other. Maybe you guys can help me with that. But it's just like it's somehow like peak 90s and like peak like action. And it's extreme sports, and it's like surfing, and you're just like it's just there's president masks, it's everything. It's like
it's so much fun.
It's Swayze, and it makes me even sad thinking about it that he's not even here anymore. Like, man, come on,
I think the best part of the movie to me is that Keanu Reeves is playing a character named Johnny Utah, who is a former college football star, but he busted up his knee. And now he has to resort to being an undercover police.
It's the American dream.
He is an FBI agent.
Number 3 is The Fisher King with Jeff Bridges and Robin Williams, directed by Terry Gilliam. And it's just to me, it's like a perfect movie. Like Robin Williams crushes it. Jeff Bridges crushes it.
It is heartbreaking, but also funny and also trippy and weird. It's a great movie. Honestly, his performance in this is like just as good as him in Good Will Hunting.
Number 2, we have Silence of the Lambs. I think our best picture winner on all of the 90s to make it. I think we might have had one.
Right.
I think we want to add maybe one more, but Silence of the Lambs. It's been talked ad nauseum about why it's great. Anthony Hopkins is in the movie for like 10 minutes, and he just like steals every scene he's in. Jodie Foster, a culmination of her career, finally led to this moment, and she plays it perfectly. And of course, I mean, Buffalo Bill, just like the creepiest, weirdest serial killer I think I've ever seen on film.
I remember being like
Uh-oh.
scared, but also like in love with, like, it's just, I don't know what it is about this movie that like it it feels, I don't know, like, it's hard to describe like why it's great to me. I mean, like, besides the acting and that kind of, and the direction, but like there's just something about this movie that has stuck with me for almost, 25 years.
You know, this one made our number one because we haven't talked about it. And it is, especially with James Cameron making his movies, he only makes one a decade at this point now. But when he dropped Terminator 2, it was like he changed the way an action movie was made. The same way The Matrix did it is the way Terminator 2 did it. And it's like the movie from start to end is just a full-on ride. And you think about the graphics for the time, because this is pre-Jurassic Park. It's like, yeah. And it's just like, when you watch this as a kid, you're like, oh, this is real life. And you would do the T-1000 run as a kid, and you would try and chase your friends down. Arnold is Arnold, but in the most stoic way that you could ever imagine.
And he's the good guy in this one.
Yeah, it just like Cameron does that thing, but he did it to his own movie where he like changes the genre and just like makes it even better. Like, it is bananas. And it's like the use of like practical and those like futuristic visual effects that they were able to just blend so well. Like, it is awesome. And like like Sarah Connor's like just changing her character drastically, like, it is so good. And I will tell you, when I have my nephew has this Nerf shotgun, and every time I have it, I always try to do the thing, how Arnold reloads it in the hallway, or how he does it on the motorcycle. Come on.
I mean, we could talk about it for hours. Idiots on the internet have already talked about it for hours. Why do us idiots have to talk about it anymore? It's a great movie.
And honestly, listen, maybe controversial. It's probably one of the last great Cameron movies we got. So
no, he made True Lives after this.
Oh, so. That's right. I'm sorry. I apologize. It also is on our list. But yes, you're right. So the movie before his last great movie. So yeah, but our like number 0 pick coming in number 0, Hook. I mean,
nope. No,
boo. Boo this man.
Rufio.
Well, we'll see y'all next video. We're just going to collect all the number ones and we're going to re-rank them, and we're going to see who's the best movie of the 90s, point blank, period. But it's going to be tough because you got to think about like Terminator 2 versus The Matrix. You got to think about, I think we had Good Will Hunting as our number 1. So you got to think about all these movies that we ranked number 1 and then be like, this one is better for sure. And it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough.
I don't want to make that decision.
Well, I'll probably make it for us, to be honest.
Yeah, probably.
He's going to choose the numbers again.
That's exactly what it is.
My Private Idaho is going to somehow make the list, and we're going to be like, what?
No, Ernest Scared Stupid's going to make the list, and there's nothing you can do about it.
I love that you like apologize that you couldn't get Ernest on the list, but then admitted to using the numbers to get
un esercito di pro